Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Semi Conversations podcast, where we talk about all things STEM and ICT. I'm your host, Bradley Downer, and today our guest is Mr. Michael Jackson. Mr. Michael Jackson, also known as Mike, is District Manager, Public Realm, and Special Projects at the Energy Corridor District in Houston, Texas. The position is a leadership position that serves the district in several ways. Mr. Jackson is responsible for a 750K annual budget for beautification and maintenance within the district. He is also responsible for management and coordination of consultants, design, and projects in the 2 million planning, infrastructure, and identity annual budget. Additionally, he manages transportation, mobility, and consulting for the district, which has a 315K annual budget. Prior to his current position, he worked for the HDR Inc. as a federal project manager. In that role, he was responsible for project federal design projects with fees ranging from 70K to 1.6 million. Federal clients spanned the U.S. Navy, U.S. Air Force, Coast Guard, National Guard, and the U.S. Army. Mr. Jackson completed a 20-plus year federal civilian career in 2022 and last held the position of Construction Technology Subject Matter Expert SME, the Air Force Civil Engineer Center AFCC, Joint Base San Antonio, Lockland, Texas. As part of the Standards and Evaluation branch of AFCC, the Construction Technology SME is responsible for the management of the Air Force Design Awards Program, Air Force Standard Design Program, and served as the Air Force member on two Tri-Service Discipline Working Group DWGs, Aviation DWG and Specifications DWG. Mr. Jackson entered federal civilian service in March 1999, working for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Mississippi Valley District, New Orleans, LA. From June 2001 to July 2004, he gained private industry experience as a mechanical design engineer, working at a nuclear plant in Clinton, Illinois. He returned to federal service in July 2004 as a project engineer for the Department of Veterans Affairs, VA, South Louisiana Veterans Healthcare System, SLVHCS, New Orleans, LA. He served in a diverse range of leadership and staff positions, from Chief of Project at SLVHCS to Resident Engineer for the VA Office of Construction and Facilities Management. He began working for the Air Force in March 2016, serving as a mechanical engineer in the Facilities Branch, Asset Visibility Division, Operations Directorate, AFCC, Tyndall Air Force, where he was instrumental in the requirement development, award, and surveillance of the enterprise-wide facility condition assessment contract. He then took a command position with the headquarters Air Education and Training Command, AETC, Joint Base San Antonio, Randolph, AFB, Texas, where he was a military construction MILCON program manager, providing MILCON and unspecified minor military construction, UMMC, advocacy, oversight, and support for 12 installations across ATC. He also volunteered and held many leadership positions. After education, he pursued a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering, University of New Orleans in 2001, Graduate Certificate Project Management, Stevens Institute of Technology, 2007, Master of Science Management, Stevens Institute of Technology, 2010, Organizational Leadership Course, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 2019, Emerging Leaders Course, Maxwell AFB by correspondence in 2020, Developing Team Course, Maxwell AFB, Alabama, by correspondence in 2020. Air Command and Staff College, Maxwell AFB, Alabama, by correspondence 2021. Air Royal College, Maxwell AFB, Alabama, by correspondence in 2022. He also received major awards, which includes Air Force Civilian Achievement Medal, 2018 2D QTR AFCEC Tyndall Civilian Non-Supervisory Category 3 Award, 2020 2D QTR HQ AETC Civilian Non-Supervisory Category 3 Award. Other achievements include 2024 Maricus Who's Who Honored Listee, 2022 BEYA Science Spectrum Trailblazer Award, 2021 STEM Success Awards Engineer of the Year, 2021 Diversity MBA's Top 100 Under 50 Executive and Emerging Leaders, 2021 Alamo Federal Executive Board Silver Excellence in Government Award, Professional Category, 2020 Society of American Military Engineers, San Antonio Post Leadership Lab, 2014 Department of Veterans Affairs Senior Resident Engineer, Training and Development Program, 2009 Department of Veterans Affairs Leadership Development Mentoring Program. Mr. Michael, welcome to the STEMI Conversations podcast.
Thanks for having me, Bradley.
Great. I'll proceed with the questions now. So my first question would be, can you describe a day in the life of your career? What is it like being an engineer or a project manager?
Yeah, thanks again. Thank you for having me. This is really an honor. I appreciate you having me on your podcast. And really feel honored that you selected me. And to answer your question, a day in the life of me as an engineer, there's been some pretty consistent things across my career. You know, as you mentioned, I have a 20 plus year career, and you know, it started out fresh with a fresh engineering degree in 2001, and now after 20 plus years and having leadership and other development opportunities, having a slightly different role. But what I can say that has been fairly consistent is that I've had to plan my work and work with others to get things done. And also, even with my first job after graduating, have the technical capacity to monitor the work I was responsible for and be able to have uh, technical conversations with vendors and consultants to get things done. Um, and so just to have that background to be able to understand if the vendors and consultants were actually achieving the scope that they were charged with. And also to be able to take that information, whether it was through a vendor or consultant, uh, versus level effort, something just on my own, to be able to take that information and communicate that back up to leadership. So those things have been really consistent throughout my career. And I do that today in my current role as the uh, district manager for public realm in the Energy Corridor District here in Houston. I still have to answer to leadership on the tasks that are assigned of me and have to be able to have the capacity to explain it at a level that uh, these leaders understand without overcomplicating the conversation.
Thank you for that information. My next question would be, you're an engineer, so this question might be a bit rhetorical, but also we will proceed with it. How is STEM or ICT integrated into your career?
How is STEM integrated? So in my capacity and all the roles I've had, I've been over the technical portions of the projects I'm involved with. Early in my career, when I worked at the Clinton Power Station, it was all engineering. And so I was marking up drawings. I did flow modeling with a software called Pipeflow. I'm not sure if that's still available, but it was all very technical, very uh, technical information versus administrative or management. And so in my current role, it's a bit more management than engineering, but I'm overseeing technical aspects that we hire consultants to do. So I have to have the background and capacity to be able to uh, know that I am having the scope of work that I've procured the consultants or vendors to do meet the actual objectives that the deliverables should be provided. And so, for an example, here in the district, a lot of our technical work has to do with transportation and mobility, or even when it comes to beautification and maintenance, the backflow preventers and irrigation systems that ensure that beautification and maintenance is maintained in the district. I have to have the ability to understand what that is, to be able to monitor the work, to know that it's actually being done properly. So engineering is still, although I've moved up in the world and in my career, I still have to have that technical background in the roles that I've had, and even in my current role.
Understood. Thank you for the response. My next question would be, if you weren't into engineering or STEM or ICT, what career would you have chosen and why?
I think about this a little bit. Uh, I'm not sure. Before I actually um, decided on engineering, I was in high school and I was unsure of what sort of collegiate path I would take. Um, but I could tell you in hindsight, I do think about other things that were of interest to me and I was actually fairly good at. And one of that is music. I played trumpet from middle school through high school. And from the time I picked up the trumpet to the time I stopped playing with an organized band, I was first chair. And interestingly, went to school at the University of New Orleans, birthplace of jazz. And instead of continuing to play on the trumpet, I decided to take up engineering. But it being the birthplace of jazz, I did also ask myself, of all times of my life, why did I stop playing? Here I am in the birthplace of jazz and fairly good at playing the trumpet. And so um, I will say I do know several musicians. I know of their own personal career paths, uh, and have appreciated some of the challenges that they've talked to me about. So I think I made the right move. And if I were to say I would have been a musician, um, I do know that that would not have been the easiest path forward for me. I'll just leave it at that.
Understood. I understand that. My next question: what are the reasons for choosing this career, your current career? Like, why did
Uh,
you get into engineering?
why did I get into it?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I graduated in 2001, I worked at Clinton Power Station, and I realized it was a really good first job. Um, my degree is in mechanical engineering, and a nuclear plant, if you will, it's just a thermodynamic cycle, the Rankine cycle, where you have a pump that moves fluid through the plant, and eventually it is heated by uranium rods to then turn into steam that moves the turbine and make electrical power. That steam is then cooled down through a condenser, and that water is sent through the closed loop of the Rankine cycle. And so it is really exactly what I studied. I really did not realize how much I would appreciate the education I got by taking that job. I felt comfortable in the interview process when I was interviewed for the position as a project engineer, mechanical design engineer, I should say, at Clinton Power Station. But I also realized, for me personally, that I wanted to elevate beyond the design world and be more of a manager, lean on more of my personal skills, my soft skill, than my technical skills. You know, uh, trying to think more, in the out years and kind of have, foresight into, what my life would be and, what kind of roles I would have, by the time retirement would come, 40 something years later. I just did not see myself staying in that particular design manager role. And so that's when I pursued my master's degree at Stevens Institute of Technology. And at the time I pursued it, it having a online university education was fairly new. There were universities out there, DeVry, Capella, that and socially, I would say it probably wasn't completely as acceptable as it is now. Before it was, somebody that went to a DeVry or whatnot would, it's like they kind of the stigmatism was that you didn't get the same uh, level of education. Uh, but so I strayed away from those strictly online universities and found that Stevens Institute of Technology was the right fit for me. And the reason why I honed in on Stevens was when I was at Clinton Power Station, my mentor um, would brag about one of his previous cohorts and say that this particular individual was like one of the smartest individuals he's ever met in life and smartest engineers that he ever met in life. And interestingly, I also worked with a graduate from Stevens at the time at Clinton Power Station. So just going with that, I looked into the university. They had a program that worked for me. I knew I would be moving. That was another reason why I wanted an online program. And when I took the job as a resident engineer for the Office of Facilities and Construction Management with the VA, I knew that job required me to move, but at the time, I also thought that it was prime and ripe in my career to go ahead and decide to do an online program so that I can work and get my education in parallel. And so since then, interestingly, I immediately got a promotion after getting my master's in management from Stevens. And from there, things have kind of fallen in the right place for me at the right time. So that's how it all happened for me.
That's interesting. And it goes to show that I would say it doesn't really matter where you get your education from, as long as you keep progressing and propelling, you're gonna make it.
Yeah. Yeah. Personal and professional development has been something that I've done throughout my life and professional career. Um, and it's paid dividends. I don't have the crystal ball to know exactly everything's going to happen for me. But be remiss to say that things haven't fallen my way by chance. It's because I've continuously tried to improve myself personally and professionally, all these years.
That's right. My next question will be, what are some challenges or obstacles you face along your journey, whether at work or school, and how did you overcome them?
Okay. Yeah. So I can touch on both work, school, and also how personal relates and all that. In school, so I went to the University of New Orleans. It's considered a predominantly white institution. And so there were a lot of people like us in the classroom. I also am not originally from New Orleans, so I didn't have personal connections from the surrounding area that some people already had. Meaning, a lot of my high school classmates didn't go to the University of New Orleans with me, right? Or people that uh, I just knew from growing up, specifically going there and having, those folks to be able to bounce things off of. So that was a challenge in and of itself. To be able to have that network of people that I can lean on to help study, and help, keep me in the right direction, or, just ask questions and things like that. Um, so, but I was able to, form some friendships, certainly within the engineering community at the University of New Orleans, that were very fruitful, and some people I still keep in contact with, even at a distance, to this day, that I went to, UNO with. Since graduation, professionally, um, similar situation. I just think in general, the engineering career, you just don't see a lot of people of color um, in that career field, no matter where you're at. And this is my experience. Um, and so, to have that comfort where there's people like you that may have backgrounds similar to you that you can kind of share and build off of has been a challenge. Um, Obviously I've been able to survive beyond that, and it hasn't held me back, but it is something where when you're in this particular field, um, you have to find ways of, number one, developing those relationships that are going to be meaningful to you while you're working and accomplishing whatever project you're working on, but also trying to sit back and have a long-term look at it, and being accepted of people that are different from you, have different backgrounds than you, and not being afraid to be vulnerable, to share your own personal experience, and not, have it looked upon as some sort of stigmatism or some negative thing that you have, but it's something that even the these people that aren't like you, they don't know, your background. That's not typically, things that they understand. So it's a two-way street. And I found that, looking at it that way, I've been able to have some long-lasting relationships beyond just professional. And then it becomes more personal, um, where they're happy to see you succeed and help you in whatever way possible. Um, and so that's been an experience I had professionally. And then, personally, just building a family, getting married, building a family, and having to consider career decisions based upon personal decisions and how it works with your own family, your spouse, um, kids, and, not disrupting the household with professional career goals. And so I've had to do this balancing act throughout college, early career, and now mid, almost late career, uh, to try to make it all work and uh, still, be successful and achieve as much as I can. Um, did that touch on what you were asking?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Okay, good.
It did. Thank you for that response. My next question is, what does success look like for you, or how do you know when you're successful?
Success. Well, in a very basic nutshell, completion of something. There's nothing like finishing something. So that's very basic, but success um is when everybody's winning around you. Everybody feels like they contributed to the win. Um, and again, whether it's personal or professional, there's times when you have to spend few extra hours of work here or there to get something done. And you need that support from the house. There's times when you have to engage other coworkers and they do it without question. That's definitely success, where you're not impeding on their own work and they're willing to go ahead and give you the time and resources needed to help get your project done. Um, Success is also who you're delivering this project to and how they feel about it. Um, Whether it is time, cost, or quality, hopefully two out of those three are within what they expected. And so where I'm going with this is like in my role now as the public realm manager in the Energy Corridor District. uh, if the public isn't receptive of the work going out in the district, whether or not it meets the city specifications doesn't define its success. The success is they are happy that this particular project happened, or it was timely. Maybe, repairing a long roadway can be disruptive and they're not happy about it. But once it's done, they see the benefit and are happy that it got completed. So um, success is when everyone feels that there's more wins than losses with any of the projects that are being implemented.
I love that response. I love it. My next question is, what do you think about networking and building relationships as an engineer or project manager?
Oh, it is a must. You have to constantly do it. Now, I know that my career, I've had various positions. It seems like every 3 or 4 years, I tend to have a different position, not necessarily with a different organization, but a different position or a different major project that I've worked on. And none of these projects get completed without networking and leveraging those relationships to get things done. it doesn't matter how sharp you are, how much you can shoulder, how much extra time you have versus the next person. You know, you can dedicate your life and stay in the office and just and sleep at your cubicle, but you still need other people to get these projects done. And it is much easier when you developed a relationship with, you know, certain individuals and stakeholders, uh, so that uh, things get accomplished more smoothly and efficiently. Um, and you can use those relationships that you've built as a way to influence positive change in projects. Um, one one thing that was a good thing for me when I used to work at the VA, the last project I worked on was a $1 billion replacement medical center project in New Orleans. And although I was working for a different part of the VA, I was still able to leverage my experience I had prior to that project when I worked for that medical center to get things done as a resident engineer when I worked as an extension from Washington, D.C. Um, and, you know, there were other individuals on that project that were very capable folks, very knowledgeable and capable. Uh, but when you've when you've uh, fostered positive relationships through networking, sometimes it's just easier to get to yes or get to a solution just based upon the relationship you have, not based upon your technical background, not based upon if you have certain funding or money behind it. It's just because they know who you are and trust you, that you're able to get some things done. And I'll say that without trust, these projects fail. And so through networking, you build that trust because it's not just transactional. They see you uh, for who you are and what you're bringing to the table, versus just a transaction. So networking is really, really important, really, and certainly in the engineering world, because none of these projects are done by yourself. Even a design project where maybe you're the CAD manager, you still have to adhere to standards. You still have to work through some manager in your organization to pass that deliverable along to the client. Uh, so even in some roles where there's one individual that does most of the work, you still have to work with other people to deliver the product the way that the client wants.
I like those responses because networking is actually the way to go. It helps you open doors, actually.
Absolutely,
Me,
absolutely.
most of my guests on the podcast as well has been it's through networking.
Hmm. Exactly, and us, you know,
Correct,
we
correct, correct.
STEM Media, you know, the STEM Success Summit, with
Correct.
2021, and you know, look at this, look at us now.
That's true. My next question would be, what do you enjoy most about your job?
I like getting stuff done. I think at the root of it all, I like seeing things come to completion, and I like getting things done, and I certainly like being able to also put my eyes on any of these projects that get completed. And you know, it just feels like I'm providing some value to either the community, client, you know, a certain demographic, you know, in the past, military active duty personnel, or veterans. And I just like seeing things come to fruition, coming up with a plan, uh, and working at that, and over the years, eventually having things completed. So, uh, ribbon cuttings, dedications, all of that. And, it feels real good when it's actually done and completed. And you see all the people around you that help be a part of that success and completing those. That's what I like the most.
All right, that sounds good. My next question is, I know you mentioned the personal development as well as your bio. What are some skills that an engineer would need?
So, one thing that I would say, and that, this is definitely personal. Um, I realized it with my first job out of University of New Orleans when I worked at the nuclear plant, Clinton Power Station. It's that um, I didn't want to be that engineer that kind of put on the blinders, pencils down, doing calculations and design work. That just wasn't something that I wanted to be a bit more well-rounded than that. I had the capacity to be that person, be successful in that type of role, but I personally wanted to um, expand beyond that and again uh, leverage my uh, soft skills and capacity to build relationships and my social skills uh, to couple with my technical background. And so that's what I would say that, that's something that I think engineers are, they have a stigmatism of kind of being socially awkward or introverts. I would say use your uniqueness to your advantage. That's what makes you stand out and be different. And don't be afraid to express that background in a way that others may be able to understand it. And so I'll tell you a little small story. When I was at the University of New Orleans, I took a technical writing class, and it was through the English department, but it was technical writing. And I don't remember exactly the report that I had to write, but I remember the feedback from the instructor. Um, I, I don't know, this had to be like a 5 or 6 page paper. And after he read it and marked it up and gave me some feedback, I met with him in his office hours. And he said, what you wrote was fine. He's like, but what I need you to do is I need you to write this like you want your mama to understand it. And so what he meant was talk plainly. You know, don't let the technical jargon overwhelm your ability to narrate and express whatever the subject is. And I took that advice. I kind of, uh, pocketed it back here in my thoughts. And when I worked at the Clinton Power Station, of course, everybody's excited, right? You graduate, you get a good first job, and people are like, oh man, so what are you doing with yourself? And I kept that same thought process when trying to explain. So earlier, I explained the Rankine cycle and everything. That you're an engineer, so you get it. You understand what I was saying. But I had to be able to explain working at that plant on a level that people that don't have technical backgrounds can understand. And so I've taken that advice through with me throughout my entire career, is that being able to relate to people that are non-technical and explain things on a level that they can digest it and get it.
I like that. For me as well, when I worked in my previous job, I was a health inspector, and we had either food safety trainings, we're doing some kind of public awareness. You had to be able to break it down for as we would say in Guyana, the layman's terms, so that the person on the street could literally understand what you're saying, instead of going with the big scientific or technical jargon. So that is something I would say not just an engineer, but every working professional should be able to do. Um,
Absolutely.
yes. So my next question would be, what did imposter syndrome look like for you, and how did you get over it? Because I'm
Say that
pretty
again.
sure everybody did that in their life before.
Say that
So
again.
the question is, what did imposter syndrome look like for you, and how did you get over that?
I believe I had it kind of when we met online. A lot of different accolades were coming my way, and I started questioning, is this me? Like, that didn't happen to inform me as much as it did in that 2019 to 2022, 23 timeframe. And I did have moments where I questioned myself, is this me? Um, and I am still working on dealing with it, but I can say that I'm coming to the realization that, all of this recognition is really just confirmation of the things I've already done. These are things that have already happened. Although the award, the certificate, the recognition, the medal, whatever it is that you get is new, the reason why it's being presented is because of something that already happened in the past. And that's what's kind of helping me to accept some additional recognition that's happening. Um, just realizing nobody's making this up. You already did this. These are things you've already done. And the other part of it too for me is um that uh I've never approached my career, my profession, um, as some sort of self-fulfilling, other than going to work and earning a paycheck. It's not about being vain or self-promotional. And in this world of social media now, it may come across that way to some people. Um, but again, it's only recognition of things that have already happened. Um, and so that's for me how I'm kind of rationalizing some of the accolades and recognition that has come my way, and that may potentially continue to come my way. People have reached out to me to serve on different uh, boards, uh, advisory councils, and they're not doing that because uh, they know me personally. They realize and recognize the achievements I've done in the past and are bringing me on board because they feel that those type of achievements and leadership and things that I've accomplished will serve well for them on their organizations moving forward. And so um, I accept it more with open arms now than I had in the past. And I accept it for what it is. These things are who I am. The reasons why folks have reached out to me are because I've done the things I've done. And so that's how I'm getting through it. But I'm human, and it can feel overwhelming because you know I never would have thought, honestly, that I would have the career. Nobody has the crystal ball. A lot of people have their goals, set out and what they want to do with themselves early in life, but how often do they go exactly the way people plan? And for me, um, I didn't set out to have specific things, and accomplishments. I'm going through my career, making the best decisions I can, day in and day out. And when I feel that I've accomplished all I could in a role, or that I found that it doesn't suit me as well as I thought it would, then I just pivot and go for the next thing. And as I've done those things, and as I've maintained the work ethic that I have, good things are coming my way. So I'm more accepting than I have been.
And I can relate to that as well. There are times when you would get recognition, maybe from a company or your workplace, and then there are times when I'm like, is this really me? And you
Yeah.
start to question it, and then over time you get to get over it. But like you said, we're all human, so it comes and it goes.
Yep.
So my next question would be, what advice would you give to a young person or a young adult who might want to pursue a career like yours?
Okay. I would say when you're early, let's just say you're in your collegiate career, you pick a degree program that suits you, whether it be engineering, math, um, you know, pre-med, whatever it is that you're interested in, and you really realize, okay, I made the right decision. I don't want to change my major. Um, that's the point when you get involved with the industry, involved with the collegiate chapters of industry organizations, take leadership roles in those collegiate chapters, such that you um, expand your depth and breadth of your network, so that you can, a lot of times it may be easy to apply to jobs now versus when I graduated. There was the internet. I'm a little older, but I'm not that much older. There was the internet, but companies use it more prolifically than they were when I graduated. But I would say, uh, although that's available, a lot of times still that personal influence, that personal network, that personal connection that you made with an individual in the industry that is related to the organization that you're leading at the chapter level at your college or university, could be that uh, in to that business that may land you that interview. Um, I would say that you continue that kind of frame of thought throughout your professional career. A lot of times when you have career desires, positions that you have seen come and go and you weren't selected, you can attempt to use those industry organizations and leadership roles that you've been in those organizations as a way to influence your own leadership at your organization to look at you differently. They may say, oh, Mike, he's really good at doing inspections, but maybe I don't want to just do inspections. Maybe I want to lead the team. So maybe I get in a construction management organization and lead an effort with that industry organization that will show and prove that I have skills that they may not have been considering otherwise. So I would say don't be afraid to lean into those industry organizations and get uh, some good parallel experience out of that as well.
All right, thank you for the answer. Like you mentioned, get experience. Many times, companies hire people. Yes, they might not have a full degree, but once they have experience, they can be able to perform exceptionally well. Um, is there anything else you'd like to add to this conversation?
No, I really appreciate you reaching out. I hope we can do this again. Um, that I been excited. I told my wife about doing this with some coworkers already, and the background that we've had, and it's just really this is what we need. This is what we need to build our network, to continue to do things that we're talking about right now in this podcast.
All right, thank you for that. And thank you, Mike, for sharing with us today. For our viewers, be sure to follow us on social media. That is on Facebook and Instagram, as well as on YouTube. You can also follow us on the major podcasting sites. So that'll be Anchor, Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, and Digital Holdout at Semi Conversations. Thank you. Do have a great day.
Thank you.